of the expert group for the OWASP top 10 for large language models. It's amazing to think how far we've come in the last couple months. So let's dive in and see what we've got going on. So look, I use this slide every time we get together, but it's just worth a quick reminder about what we're doing and why, which is we're not just building a list, we're building a community here. And it's been amazing to watch this group grow. I think I was amazed on the first call when we had 100 and something people on the Slack channel, and now it's pushing up against 500, which is just awesome. We wanted to become a foundational work for other standards around AI safety. And, just in the past week, we've started to see things where we're getting included in reports by US government agencies and getting mainstream press attention. And I think we're getting just what we hoped. And we're just on the verge of actually releasing the first version. So I think we're off to a great start. The other thing, and that I just want to thank everybody on this, is we were going to drive discussions, push boundaries. I remember the first month, there were violent disagreements about very fundamental issues like, was prompt injection a thing, or some of these other things that now just seem like distant echoes in the past. But we had to get through all of this because of all the communities that we have represented here. We had people who had deep AI expertise. We had people from the AppSec community or the InfoSec community who were speaking different languages. And sometimes we've adopted one language or another. In other places, I think we're inventing whole new language constructs that the rest of the industry will be adopting after us. So, and then the last bullet, this will be a living work and this will evolve. And this will be the big topic for today, which is 1.0 is almost in the can. I'm hoping to give Mike the go-ahead to kind of draft the final PDF versions this afternoon after the leads have taken a final look. But let's hop in. So look, I used this slide in the very first one, and we said the watchword here was we needed to move quickly because the industry is moving quickly and nobody has any guidance and nobody knows what they're doing. And what we see now is people still don't have a lot of guidance. They don't know what they're doing, and this is getting more and more attention. So I'm really glad that we moved quickly. I think everybody's going to look at this version, and there are a lot of opinions about things we could still do better, things we could add. But when we look at what we've accomplished on this roadmap, it seems like yesterday we were back at the end of May, just announcing this, assembling the first group and having that kickoff phase, which was really just, believe it or not, give or take 60 days ago. And, we ran this like an agile project. We had sprints. The train was going to leave the station. People weren't happy with things when they were done, but we said, we'll get them and we'll get them better. And I think these last couple sprints of being able to really focus on quality and tune them and have those subgroups and debates, I'm really pleased with where we are leading into the publication of 1.0. So last night when I counted, we were up to 475 people on the Slack channel, have more and more people watching the GitHub project, more and more people who are actually listed as contributors on the GitHub project, meaning that they've actually pushed commits into the project, even though really I consider anybody who's ever posted on the Slack channel is really a contributor here, because that's the way that we're running this. And I think it's been almost impossible to count how many people have chipped in. I know at a bare minimum, it's well over 125 though. So look, since the last meeting, we did release 0.9. We got some of our first major mainstream coverage, which was an article that came out this week in Wired. If you didn't check that out, go check it out. I think it's really cool. And we did get referenced by a report from the US government that I think Sandy posted, which is really very cool. It was one of kind of only 3 or 4 authoritative things that they could point to in this space around how are you managing security in AI. And so I think we're off to a great start. just in terms of the activity, it's just worth looking at this. You know, we've built this community around the Slack presence, even though there are contributors who are chipping in other ways. But when you look at this, you know, not only have we posted well north of 1,000 messages on the main channel, but since we set up these sub channels a month ago, sort of for phase 3, you know, you can see how many people have chipped in on these channels. You can see things like the permission handling one. We pretty early decided that we were going to collapse that with some of the other ones. Should probably archive that channel. But you can see on every other one of these, just dozens and dozens of messages going back and forth. And, you know, some of us were debating as recent as yesterday, should we put some kind of disclaimer on this that people may have used AI technologies building the list? And I'm sure people did. I know I used chat. I don't know if you guys know this, but like the whole 0.1 version of the list was generated by ChatGPT. So there's certainly some DNA in there, but I feel like this is a real work of human creativity and community, and that we should be really, really proud of it. So where are we? Top 10 entries are locked at this point. We are in a final release candidate QA stage. Mike actually did generate the first version of the PDF last night and posted it back to a channel for the review leads, just for everybody to take a look at it, make sure that nothing inconsistent has crept in. We're not looking to do more rewriting, but we're just doing a QA scrub on it today. Let's see. Oh yeah, so the layout, what we're working on right now, again, Mike's done the first version of the PDF. Once we're sure that that's locked, he'll rev that. We'll do a version of the slide format that Mike introduced last time, which I think is great. It's a nice bite-sized way for people to get introduced who don't want to read the whole 33 pages that I think it's grown to. Actually, I'm super pleased it's shorter than 0.9. I think there was a lot of focus putting in on tightening things up, removing redundancies. I think it reads much better now. So I'm super pleased about that. The other one, Mike has done some really amazing work putting together a website for us that will probably be ready next week. It's a real interactive website that you can click around on. It will also, you know, contain links to news articles and things like that. Mike's reserved a domain name for us. I think it's top10llm.com. So we'll probably push that live next week, depending on when, you know, we finish kind of final QA on that. But I think it's going to be great. We're going to have a number of formats that people will digest this in different ways. Oh, LLM top 10. There's Mike says it is. Cool.
There's an older version of it right now there, but it's not final content.
Okay, yeah, people can go take a look at it. I think it's going to look fantastic. So, post 1.0 activities. We're going to launch this next week. We're going to be doing some PR around it. Then obviously we're going to be looking for public commentary. I would expect more people to join the list at that point. We'll put up some special resources on how people can contribute going forward. And we'll have this as a discussion topic for all of us. How do we want to run the project going forward? Because I do think we want to slow down for a minute. I think we've all been in a sprint, so we got to step back and take a deep breath. But then I want to build sort of a core team for, let's call it 2.0, which in my mind is somewhere between 6 and 12 months out, maybe with some intermediate updates. But we can kind of work that out as a group. Also, I've seen things that almost feel like sub-projects that are already cropping up, where people are building more detailed threat models, a lot of very interesting diagrams and things that people are creating that might sort of take on lives of their own. So I think that's a really good thing for us to talk about, and other ways to kind of bring people into the community. So with that, let's see, is Autumn on the meeting with us today?
I am here representing.
All right. Do you want to take people through the PR plan really quick?
Yeah, sure. So I'm actually just going to share my screen because our PR plan is basically a doc, and I will share this out in our Slack channel later. So let's get over here. All right. Assuming everybody can see that. So,
Got it.
all right. So you all get the copy of this doc. Our PR plan is, let's try to keep things moving forward as they've been going, which is this community driven. We want things to kind of just be organic here. So the goal is for everybody who's engaged in the community, if you have access to a channel and you want to share and promote, we want to just give you the resources to do that effectively while kind of bringing that back to the rest of the group and making sure we can kind of amplify the message within each other. So that pretty much means we've also created a Twitter handle that links up with what Mike created for the website. So also LLM top 10. We'll try and use that to make sure that we amplify any messages and kind of are able to have a dialogue on Twitter. We've got a few social posting guidelines here. So if you're posting anything on LinkedIn, if you're posting anything on Twitter, Discord, wherever, like try to use that LLM top 10 tag to just be consistent. We'd like the website once it's live. And again, thank you, Mike, so much for putting that together, because I think that's a really nice entry point. We want that to be the entry point. So that's where you can direct traffic immediately. But until that's live, we've shared the main OWASP project site here. And in terms of conversation, I think we're going to keep this Slack channel. So feel free to use that, reference people back to the Slack channel. That's where we've got the most individuals concentrated. I think that's where we'll continue to Steve, I think you'll keep, call to action will go into that channel. So if people want to get engaged, that's where you should direct them. I also have linked here a spreadsheet. Alex, who may or may not be on this channel, initially started this, but I've copied it into kind of a shared place. Everybody has access to edit it. So if you have something, and it can be a LinkedIn post, it can be a Twitter post, it can be a blog on your own channel, it can be a webcast, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter where it is or what it is. Just make sure you add it in to this list. And this is where we'll periodically go through, comb the list, make sure that gets reflected on the website. There's a news section that we'll try to keep updated pretty periodically. We can use this to, again, amplify from our Twitter channel if we want to call out anything y'all have done. So this is the best place and the consistent place you can keep us notified. We have a little timeline here. So what we're going to do is I've got a list of emails that we will send out people who've said they would like to repost or maybe create their own blogs about the top 10 list. So once we've done it officially, we're going to send out a little pre-release email on Monday, on the 31st, and then just say that the official release is the first. And that's, I think the first would be, Steve, when we'd like to see like your LinkedIn, right? We want something to go up there. We'll do some kind of formal post on the LLM top 10 Twitter, and then we'll make sure that the OWASP site has a blog up. And then we'll make the ask for that is just repost from one of those 3 channels when you're for anything that you want to notify or let people know about. After that, again, when we're able, we'll get the site up. We'll have a few shareables that you can use to share. It's like just quick little graphics that redirect back to that site. We'll notify on the project channel again, and that'll be another opportunity for people to share. And then we're waiting, because DEF CON and Black Hat are such big events in the security community, we're kind of waiting for any major blog posts. I don't really have anything queued up until right after that for people to start like other external blogs. Unless, again, some of you I know have reached out to me and are working on some target audiences, that some of those might go a little bit before DEF CON, but we want to make sure we're not lost in the wave of PR and other security related events that are going on during that. So we'll kind of start to release things right after that and then go from there. So there are a few talking points
just
here.
one comment on them.
Yep. Sorry, go ahead.
Just one comment. I would love to see everybody involved in the project writing blogs with their own take on things. You know, if you've been constructing one of these diagrams, put up a blog, you know, get some feedback on it. I think you can be out on the edge. If you disagree with the way that we wrote one of the entries, put up your own opinion about it and say like, hey, I was involved in this group, but it didn't come out the way I wanted. Here's the way I think it should be. Those are all great. Driving that kind of sort of forward-looking discussion, community, just so long as you're linking back to the project, go ahead and do it. So I would love to see everybody out there on LinkedIn or Twitter or Threads, if anybody's there, you know, go ahead and do that and just kind of be sharing your thoughts and you know, feel free to call yourself anybody who's here. You are a founding member of this community, of this expert team. Put that tag on yourself and carry it forever and go out and do that.
Related to that, and also what Autumn was mentioning, if there are social graphics that you have ideas for or specific messaging that you would like to say with some supporting graphics, let me know and I can cook something up for you.
I think Bob was trying to toy around with some kind of he called it the "Where's Waldo" kind of a diagram that says, well, if I am absolutely clueless about what this is, what might be a diagram I wanted to start with? And we are, Steve, you mentioned that there has been hectic discussions in the Slack channel about how to adjust it, make it fine-tuned better, and so on and so on. I think it's still kind of under process, but we are getting there. But I think maybe this might be a good diagram to include as an introductory kind of diagram. We're trying also to make it look better. It will take another couple of days.
Like if it's problematic, it's just a message. That's a different thing. But if there's but actually I appreciate this moving hard.
Excellent. All right. Any more questions for Autumn on the PR plan?
I have a quick question. Should we trigger? Should we trigger should we create, for example, Mike mentioned something coming from HackerOne. Do we want to also try and provoke discussions coming from the media? Should we actively, or do you want us to actively reach out, for example, for security reporters or things who may be interested in writing on this and provoke the discussion and get more coverage using that kind of approach?
Yes, I am supportive of that. I think the what I've put here in the talking points is if you have direct contacts or if you get outreach, feel free to definitely represent yourself as like Steve said, you're a founding member. You know, we have the talking points in here, so try to make sure you stay aligned with that general message. And then we've asked, I've got an email in here. I might update that later if we get a cleaner one, but I have an email. So just, you can keep us in the loop by sending an email there. And that way we can have just a record of who's doing what. And if you need extra support, again, feel free to DM me on the Slack or send an email to that channel. So we can provide additional like quotes and support and that kind of thing from different people. I know I have a list of people who've indicated they're interested and willing to help do things like co-author blogs, be guests on webcasts, podcasts, whatever mechanisms. So we kind of have a running list of those people. So if you want someone to help you co-author something, let me know and I can help connect. Or on the flip side, if you are interested in helping to co-author, you just aren't sure what to do yourself, let me know and I'll add you to that list and then I can help keep that coordinated. But everybody here should feel free to reach out, engage. And I think that just adds to the the truth of it, which is this is a community-driven effort, and it's not just a single perspective. It's not a single company. It's a variety of perspectives and a variety of security professionals, all of us who have appropriate things to say. So feel free to engage.
Rock on. All right, let's get back into this here. Oops. Okay, so just to review, we're going to be launching the PR activities. We're going to be watching for public commentary. Just along those lines, this weekend, I'm going to be going and doing a scrub on the OWASP site. I'll be updating the links to point to the 1.0 assets as Mike finishes those up. I will also be going into the wiki. I'll be archiving anything that was, instructions for different phases, intermediate things. I'm going to try and get the wiki really cleaned up to welcome any new members that we get going forward. So I'll be doing some cleanup there. I'll post that to the main channel so people can check my work, but just expect that to be happening, as there'll be a lot of things moving around, a lot of things going into the archives. I'm trying to keep all the intermediate states for posterity, and people, I imagine there's going to be enough interest in this. People will be curious about how it got developed, so we can point them to the archives. It'll all still be there, but we're really going to kind of strip it back, make it really clear where people can go and join the Slack, the GitHub, all of that, and start to become a member of the community as we move into the next phases. So I do want to keep the meeting cadence going, even though we are going to slow down for a little bit. I think we all need to slow down for a couple of sprints, but I think there will be work going on. We'll find things, though. There will be a 1.01 version, and at some point probably a 1.1. But one of the things I want to do is get a discussion going, and we will have about half the meeting left to sort of kick off this discussion, is how do we want to organize this community for, let's call it V2? Who wants to be involved? Do people have suggestions about how it should be run differently, how it could be run better? Maybe do we need to do some different things now that we're scaled to the size that we have? So would love to get into that discussion. So just looking at this question from Jason about what does it take to become a flagship project. So basically next week, after we ship 1.0, I'm going to talk to Harold, who runs kind of the project committee, about what's it take to get us out of incubator mode. And I did take a look at the requirements. I think we'll be quite there to at least get into, there's kind of one mode in between incubator and flagship. So we'll start to talk to them, but I feel like we're generating more activity and more press for OWASP than just about anything else right now. So I think the OWASP board will be pretty supportive of what we're doing. So with that, discussion time. So I will take this out of slide mode just so we can see each other's faces. So let's start off with the topic, though, around, sort of, rebooting what we're doing. We're going to feel proud of 1.0, and we've got some things to do to carry that off, get off the PR, start to take commentary. But I would love to hear comments on how you think the project has gone now, maybe some of the things that could go better. And, if you have ideas for different ways that we could organize or different things we could be doing forward, I'd love people to share thoughts.
By the way, Steve, thank you. It was awesome leadership from your side, and make it fast in these sprints. It was aggressive, and I cannot imagine how much pressure the leads have had to organize all this work. It was it was cool. So for the next release, it might be a good idea to gather as much production experience as we have, as we can, because people will start applying this stuff. We will start applying this in our organization where everyone works, and it would be cool to do something similar to more classic lists and bring back as much real problems which we will face as possible to redefine the list or enhance it. So that's the thought.
Yeah. Hey, just one idea. I don't know why I didn't think of this earlier, but Mike, you are setting up some email aliases. Should we set up something, call it like feedback at, LLM.com, and we can just sort of put that out, maybe even put that in the document and tell people very specifically, like, hey, you can go here to engage. If you want to send feedback, send it here. We can figure out where that goes, but that would be a good place to set up and just let people broadly kind of share that feedback as they put this into production. Let's see, Jason, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so one of the things that came up yesterday when some of us were meeting for the prompt injection kind of final tune-up, I think there's some room for just kind of polishing up, right? I think a lot of what we got, like the key findings now, key entries, but I think there's some room to polish up things like the examples that we give, and I think we can leverage. We've got a lot of like pen testing and consulting folks here that I think we could leverage some of that report writing experience maybe to kind of polish those up. So that's one of the things that I would like to see out of the next phase.
I think it's a good point. John.
John, you're on mute.
Okay, so can you hear me now? Yeah. I was saying, what a fantastic experience. Well done to all of us. Thanks, Steve. It's been a fantastic pace. I think what we got really right was the balance between acting very fast and keeping the quality. So I don't want us to lose that. I think, that's differentiated from all the other OWASP projects that have been. So I want us to keep that. However, as you said, I think, we've got to the point now where we can start thinking about how do we scale, how do we, kind of allow other people, for instance, simple things to do more peer reviews, to see, what's the governance in place of contributions rather than just kind of this huge conversation on Slack and then trying to put it on PR, frantically. So these are the things to think about. Also, these are new things that keep changing. So there is a lot of conversation, a lot of stuff is coming, and we need to keep a record of that. And unfortunately, because we didn't think of that, I kept putting it into the items. So I think, I was creating this kind of war and peace type of item. So moving forward, if we have a way of capturing all the supporting information, maybe, our entries will be a little bit lean. You answered the question about feedback because I'm trying to organize some customer feedback sessions so I can actually invite people and also send emails. And yeah, guidance and updating the threat model. I think what Gavin did was fantastic to start us, but there are so many different topologies. I think we need to update that and be more explicit about what we're securing. And that's my feedback. Really, I think, it's been fantastic so far.
Awesome. And by the way, I'm just looking at a comment from Bob in the channel about alignment. And I think it's interesting. I'm pretty sure that the 0.1 version of the list had alignment as a top level entity. And, for whatever reason, as we got into, broadening things out, we tried to broaden things out. I think we had 43 different entries, some of them slightly overlapping, but we had a lot of entries that we plowed through in phase 2 and then narrowed it back down, and it just really didn't make the cut as a top level thing. I think certainly one of the things we can look forward to is we actually, certainly as we move into V2, I don't think we necessarily keep these exact entries. I think that's unlikely. I think we'll want to sort of expand back out again, look at a larger population, and then narrow back down however we do that. So I think it's totally fair game looking forward. Let's see, I see Dan has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I think I agree with John, and I think that surely it has been quite an intensive effort from everyone, I guess, and I would say I did not join the project at the very beginning. Unfortunately, I'm in this space for a long time, but I didn't join right from the start. But I think that now we need to kind of consider transition from speed into accuracy, which is in many ways kind of a transition that the entire LLM industry is going to move into. So everyone is trying to act very fast. Everyone is coming to come up with prototypes. Everyone is trying to come up with proof of concepts. And now we are going to see, I think, within the upcoming, let's say 6 months, a year or so, we're going to see gradually applications that goes into production, slightly and gradually, potentially very fast. But when those things are going to go into production, sorry about my language, but shit will hit the fan. That's what's going to happen. And I think that this is also where the community will need to be educated, not only about what is a top 10 issue or any one of the 40 something, 100 and something issues we are going to identify, but rather, should we come up with more proper examples? Should we consider live demos of some of them? So what is our role as a community in education, not necessarily just by outlining them and painting them out? I think this would make our organization, or this kind of, it's not an organization, this community, much more vibrant and active. And I think it would make a lot of sense in my view. But it also means that we have to take things a little bit slower because, again, there is no other way around it. You want things to be accurate, you want things to be precise, you want things to be accepted by the majority. It's not just everyone for himself and so on. Another thing I wanted to mention is that usually for OWASP Top 10 project, some of these projects get sponsored by companies, by corporates, and so on and so on. I don't know if this is where we want to guide this. I don't know who is in a position to even discuss this or negotiate this or whatnot. But as this will get more coverage, you may, or I think we should anticipate some things of that nature to come up. Maybe companies would like to approach, maybe we want to open that to the members to bring their own companies into becoming sponsors of this activity. And if you get some sponsorship, what do we do with those resources? Do we pay for the domain? Do we for ads? I don't know. I'm just saying that it is very common for top 10 projects to get sponsored. As this is something with quite traction, I would expect something similar for this as well.
I think there's some great points there. And I think we all agree on there's a big shift now. We had to sprint to get something out, put a stake in the ground and give people something to start to educate themselves with. Now we don't have to sprint as fast. Now we want to focus on quality, all of those things. And so I think the other thing you mentioned, there's a lot of room for, let's call them sub projects. And, you know, if somebody wants to create an online learning trail or demos. I've seen people talking about creating vulnerable applications. All these things I think could be great sub projects, companion projects, however we want to think about them. I think now that we have this community built and we're going to generate a lot of attention around it, I think we can push those things out. And frankly, everybody remember, it's open source, it's under Creative Commons. If you want to go do something like that and share it out yourself as a way to kind of quickly get something out to the world, go ahead and do it. And if you want to contribute it back in, sure, we'd all welcome that, but don't feel blocked on getting alignment from the community around doing one of these things. If you want to run fast and go do one of these things, I just want to encourage everybody to do that. Write your blog, create your video, whatever you want. This is a way to get it out there. So let's see. Andy has had his hand up for a while. Andy.
Hey folks. So yeah, just echoing a lot of things that already been said in terms of next steps. let's keep producing more information. An idea I chucked into the Slack was around contributing a section to the OWASP cheat sheet project. I think there's a load of great material that has come out of our discussions on Slack, maybe some of the material cut out of the LLM entries themselves as we kind of shrink down, that would be great to contribute into that kind of product as well. I guess in terms of immediate next steps, I agree, it feels like we need to let this soak for a while. We are but a group of folks that have been self-motivated to come together, but the feedback from the rest of the world is going to be absolutely essential. And so gathering that, just seeing what comes back, hey, maybe there's a bunch of stuff that we've completely missed. We've got things wrong in a couple of areas. That's all great feedback. I was thinking one mechanism that might be useful for that feedback. I have an email address for folks just to chuck stuff to. That feels like it might not necessarily encourage the community to actually get a discussion going behind this. I know we've got our Slack, which is for, would be a good mechanism for discussion. I also wonder whether there's any value in using the GitHub issues feature. If our top 10 is articulated on a GitHub repo, could we use that issues framework to encourage people to raise challenges, questions, and then from that we get a bit more of a public discussion going. Does someone else agree or disagree with that particular comment, and how might a community kind of build up a proposal? So it feels like we've got lots and lots of options available to us. We just need to work out, okay, which are the ones that we feel like are going to be the most effective for us, and make sure that those are the ones that we recommend and push out to folks.
Yeah. Look, quick comment. I don't think there's any downside in us kind of making certainly the GitHub issues feature one way for people to put in feedback. I think there's a set of developers out there that are completely comfortable with that. I don't know if we should do some pre-work. Do we need to set up some categories maybe that match the different entries or things like that? So I don't know if anybody would want to volunteer to just go take a look at that, but it might be good to just kind of get it set up for use. Is Andy volunteering with that thumbs up?
I'm happy to give it a go.
Take a look at it and let us know if you kind of feel like it's ready to be an area to take feedback, post it to the list, and we can also add it to the wiki and things, making it clear to people that that's a good route for feedback. I like that.
At the end of the day, I think we should welcome feedback. We should be very supportive of feedback. We should say that by design, we probably missed a lot of things. By design, this is very vibrant thing that moves very quickly. So we should expect things to be slightly off, slightly inaccurate. That's perfectly fine. And I think that rather by preventing it, we should embrace it. We should declare, yes, we probably missed things. This is where we want to position ourselves, I think.
Yeah, and I guess that's also where maybe there's
one of the things
that sorry, I just wanted to add on to that. I think there's an element where we as a founding team or a core team need to make sure that we foster that culture of positive feedback, right? Because we've going to have a load of people posting comments and questions that are looking at this completely new, and maybe they say things that actually we've already covered to death, and we need to be really careful that any responses to those are positive responses, and ensure that the community builds up around this is very much a positive community, because we all know how easy online communities can fall into kind of negative behaviors.
Yeah, I'll give my first experience with that. I don't know if any of the rest of you, I think some of you might be on. There's this other Slack community somebody set up for LLM security, and it's got a lot of people on it, hundreds and hundreds. And as soon as I joined, I had a couple people just jump all over me like, oh, you're part of that stupid OWASP group and you guys don't get it. And I had this guy sending me 50 DMs about how this was some self-serving, commercially interested, so we are going to wind up with internet trolls and flamethrowers. And I think you got a good point. We got to be ready to just be calm and be supportive. And that's part of the process.
In other words, we did something right.
Yeah, rock on. All right, let's see. George has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm really happy to have participated in the project. To be honest, it was really fast. I had a lot of issues coordinating with the rest of my life, but I gave input whenever possible. I'm so very happy that Andy also proposed the Git topic before me and volunteered for that. I can try to support also, so if possible, I'll be happy to support. And I think it will be I see also that Mike also put in the chat the possibility of having feedback in the website. I would maybe suggest to funnel all the feedback into the Git, because that would give us a structure to look at the issues, to look at the evolution, and everything is going to be fast. So the project was fast, but the LLM adoption is being very, very interesting. And so it would be a good place to manage everything and to foster that positive feedback, because there's going to be feedback. There are going to be new vulnerabilities coming up with the speed that everything is evolving. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting project to follow in the next few months. And also, good job, Steve.
Thanks. Look, I think what I'll do is I'm gonna add a new page on the wiki that is specifically geared at mechanisms for sending feedback. That way we can just sort of get it up in the community. These are the places that you can send feedback. I'll send that around to the big list over the weekend so people can comment on it. But I think vectoring it to the GitHub makes sense. I think there will be people who will have feedback who are maybe not 100% comfortable filing GitHub issues. So we'll have some other ways to do that. And I think that, early on we had sort of pages on the wiki where people could just add links to commentary, like if they were writing their own blogs and things. So I think we'll probably encourage some things like that too. Great. All right. I don't see any other hands. Anybody else have a comment you want to make before we wrap?
Maybe one quick one.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just was looking at the lab and incubator projects, and I noticed that there's an LLM prompt hacking project under the needs update. And it looks like that probably is now migrated to this project possibly, but it's also the only one that says LLM. So if you go to that page and search for LLM, that's the one you find, because our project is listed as large language models instead of LLM. Minor point, but that might be a source of confusion for some people at some point.
All right, we should figure out who's running that project. I also noticed it looks like the team running the machine learning top 10 list just rebooted themselves. So I'm really supportive of that. I don't want to run it, but I want someone to run it, and I would love us to stay in sync with them. So I joined their channel, and I think it would be great for us to just cross-pollinate and have somebody deal with that broader set of issues, and that actually relieves some pain from us. Once they're really up and running and have a list, we can reference to that and focus more on specific things.
And I mentioned our project as an example multiple times there to bring that reboot, because I think that's a good kind of base for that group, and I'm part of that group to adopt you. So I'm glad you joined there, and maybe some conversations there of how they relate. Steve, you mentioned sub projects. Are you going to kind of circulate and consult, or do people come and suggest sub projects? How do you see that working? And in general, ideas of what people, how do we coordinate and prioritize a little bit?
I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put together a Google survey with some places for people to send feedback around, not around the list, but around how we ran version 1.0 of the project, ideas for sub-projects, follow-ons, all of that. So we'll make a very direct place to collect that feedback, and also for people to, you know, if they explicitly want to volunteer for something, that'll be a place to do that. So I'll try to get that up. Try to get that up by Monday. All right, team. Well, I just want to thank everybody who came out today, but I know we'll also have people watching the recording. We do get a lot of viewers on that afterwards. So anybody, whether you're here in person, whether you're watching the recording later, anybody who is a part of this, this was a fantastic experience for me. It's good to hear that a lot of you share that. I think this is a big milestone in the industry. I think this is something you guys can be proud of, having worked on for a long time. And I'm looking forward to hopefully having all of you stay involved in this as we carry it forward. So thanks so much, everybody, and we'll be talking to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye.